Welcome back to Coffee and Tea with CarrieVee. I'm CarrieVee, your biggest fan, the person who will believe in you until you can't believe in yourself. And then I'm going to keep believing you because I truly am your biggest fan. We're talking today about when things don't always go as planned and how do you get through that? Basically, how do we focus on solutions rather than the problem? Coffee and Tea with Carrie V is all things confidence, clarity, leadership, and communication. Great leaders will always focus on the solution. And that is true whether you are leading a family or leading a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Great leaders, which is you, focus on solutions. They don't focus on the problems. They identify the problem, of course. You have to know what the problem is, keeping your finger on the pulse of who you are leading. You have to be aware. So I'm not telling you to put your head in the sand and pretend problems don't exist. Problems come. They will always exist. Whether you are leading that family or that multi-billion-dollar corporation, problems do exist and they will come your way. Acknowledge them. Certainly, great leaders will acknowledge them. In fact, they will acknowledge the problem before most people even know there is a problem. They can see it coming. They can feel it coming. They are aware that the problem is coming. But instead of spending hours and hours on the problem, as many people do, bemoaning the problem, regretting the problem, going over the problem, talking to everybody who will listen to them about the problem. Instead of doing any of that, a great leader acknowledges the problem and then immediately turns their focus to the solution, This is something that has been modeled to me throughout my life, and I don't take that for granted. I had the most amazing parents that anyone could have, and I don't take that for granted, and I know that it is a huge blessing. Growing up, I thought everybody had parents like mine, but as life went on, I realized that actually most people didn't. My mom and dad were extremely encouraging to their three children. We all believed there was nothing we couldn't do. I realize as I get older and older how much I have in common with both of my parents. I used to think I was just like my dad. I was daddy's little girl. My dad was certainly my best friend. He was certainly my business mentor. However, as I look back and I see things and I remember things of my mom was also a business mentor of mine. And my mom could be hyper focused. Though people called her an airhead, when my mother wanted to get things done, my mother got things done. My mother was, I don't think she had even one little stitch of ADHD, which I'm pretty sure looking back now, my dad did. And I certainly do. It is so hard for me to get focused. I do whatever I can to make sure I am focused. I tap into things like ashwagandha, reishi mushrooms, mushroom blends, things that will help me get focused. I will put on music that is designed to help you focus. I will set timers and race the timer in order to keep myself focused. My mom never had to do any of that. She just got focused and she got it done. My mom taught me as a little girl. I wish I'd realized this when I was growing up, but it took me, I'm almost 60. I'm just now really realizing this lesson. Before it was cool to work at home, my mom worked from home. My mom and dad did not have a lot of money. We didn't have a lot growing up. We didn't know it as kids. We had no idea. I was in my 50s before I knew how much my mom and dad struggled when we were young children. My mom wanted to stay home and raise her kids. My dad wanted that very much too. And my dad worked his butt off and he was growing a business. And so young children, wife is staying at home raising those kids. Oh, this is back. I was born in 1966. My brothers were older than me. So this was going back some time. This is when this was completely normal. Times were different. You could buy a house with just one income, all of those things. Okay. So we're going way, way back. My mom stayed home with the kids and my dad went to work. My dad was always working 2 to 3 jobs at a time to provide for the family as he was growing his business. He also was a musician. He traveled as a musician, all the things. We saw a very hard working mother and father who were pulling the cart in the same direction. Now, my mom knew she wanted to bring in income. My mom had a very lucrative full-time job before she had my oldest brother, Bill. She worked full time. She had gone to school. She had gone to secretarial college, and she had what she needed to work as an administrative assistant, as an executive assistant. She could do shorthand. She wrote all of her Christmas gifts, of her Christmas gift lists in shorthand. None of us ever learned how to read shorthand, but my mom was so incredibly fast at writing shorthand. I'm like, dude, I don't know how people learn that stuff. I was never focused enough to learn shorthand. My mom could type so fast. She could listen to something and type it and be focused on dinner cooking in the other room at the same time. Hyper focused, my mom was. My mom knew that she wanted to bring income into the house, but she didn't want to leave the house to do it. We're talking back in the 70s. I was born in 66. So when I was about 5, I remember 5, 6, 7 years old. So we're in the 70s now, in the 1970s. My mom worked from home before it was cool to work from home. But it wasn't like going online now and Googling, what are some great jobs I can do from home? Google didn't exist. The internet didn't exist. There were no computers in the house. There were typewriters. For those of you listening to this who don't know what a typewriter is, it's a big thing that kind of looks like a keyboard, except it doesn't look like a keyboard. How do you explain a typewriter? It had keys that you push down, and it would push a lever up onto the paper with ink. You had to buy these spools of ink, and it would hit the paper, and that's how it was typed. There was no backspace button, really, though. If you backspaced, you had to get white out, which was this little tube of white stuff. Then you would have to put it on the paper and wait for it to dry before you could then go on and type your document. I don't know. It's a really bad description of what a typewriter is, but a typewriter, I used to love to type. My mom could not only type super fast, she didn't make mistakes. It was a super, super gift of hers. I remember learning how to type when I was in high school. I loved it. It was so rhythmic, and I was so into music. It just felt like rhythm. And I still love to type. I can type almost as fast as my mom, but I thankfully have, keyboard. Trying to lift up my keyboard. I thankfully have this computer keyboard that has backspace, and before I print it, I can fix all of the mistakes. My mom didn't have that, but she knew she had skills with shorthand. She knew she had skills with typing, and she knew her skills were exceptional. So my mom didn't have the beauty of emailing people or going onto the internet. She went to law offices and knocked on the doors until she found one that was willing to hire her to give her cassette tapes, look it up, cassette tapes to take home and put in her cassette player. She would transcribe what the lawyers were saying. She would type them up, put them into the format that lawyers need, all that stuff. And then she would take it back. She would give them the documents. They would give her a new tape, and she would go home and do it all over again. I would sit underneath the dining room table while she typed those documents, and I would go with her for the drop off and pickup. And word spread of how good she was. And she had a pretty rocking business from home. So if her kids were sick, she took care of her kids that day. If we were on vacation, she didn't work then. If she needed to go to the school for a play, or if it was mom's day, if it was her day on the PTA to take recess or whatever they did back then, my mom did that. She made breakfast for us every single day. Dinner was on the table every single night. If we were home, she would sit on the couch and hold us. But she was also working from home before it was cool to work from home. My mom could have sat on the couch and bemoaned the fact that there wasn't much money and she couldn't go to work because her kids were home and she wanted to stay home with her kids. She could have focused on the problem that was in front of her. That there wasn't enough money at the end of the month, and she wasn't really seeing her husband much, and he wasn't home with the kids as much because he was working all these jobs to support the but instead, my mom took her focus away from the problem at hand and put it onto a solution, and then made the solution happen and didn't give up until it did. It took her many lawyers to find one that would say, okay, we'll give it a shot. But she did so good then that word spread. But if she'd given up the first time she had heard no, or the 10th time she heard no, her dream would have fallen flat. But she did not give up, and she did not take any time to focus on the problem, because the problem was only going to grow if she gave it more energy. So she gave all of her energy to the solution, and she did something that wasn't even cool back then. Now kids grow up seeing their parents work from home. It's a kind of a thing, but it was not a thing in the 70s. It wasn't a thing. There was no network marketing companies. Maybe there were, but that wasn't my mom's style. My mom loved doing things that were executive assistant like. And as we all got older, she took all of those skills, went back to school, honed up on her skills, and then worked for a major corporation in the area which we lived. And she stayed there for almost 40 years. When she retired, they begged her not to. That's how much they loved her. My mom never gave up. My mom never looked at a problem and stayed on the problem. She acknowledged the problem and then looked at the solution. And my dad was right there doing the same thing. When his business that he started began to falter, he looked at the problem, he acknowledged the problem, and then he worked on the solution. And when he sold his business years later to a franchise, they were stunned at how well his business model worked, because my dad didn't focus on the problem. He focused on the solution. Now, as I work with people in group coaching or one-on-one, and when I go in and I train companies and we go into leadership and communication skills, and I spend all day training their leadership teams or their whatever team they have me coming in and working with, we will acknowledge the problem at hand. We talk together about that, but then we focus on the solutions. We spend very little time on the problem. In fact, if I can, I will have them acknowledge the problems and send them to me before I ever walk in the door, because I don't want to spend a lot of time on those problems. I want to spend time helping them find the solutions, or at least having a springboard to jump into those solutions. Because when you put your energy on the solutions will grow. But too many times I work with people who want to talk about the problems every single time we meet. That is not effective leadership. And again, it doesn't matter if you are leading a family, a church group, a small business, a corporation, a billion-dollar corporation. It doesn't matter. It holds true across all of those levels. If you focus on the problem, you grow more problems. If you focus on the solution, you grow the solution. We've heard this a million times. I know you have. I have. Sometimes putting it into practice, oftentimes putting it into practice can be a challenge, because when we are facing something challenging, it is so easy to get sucked into the challenge. I am not exempt from this. I study this stuff. I teach this stuff. Working with companies is one of my greatest joys. I love spending all day with a leadership team, with a communication team, with the women of the business, however they structure it for me to come in. I love coming in and spending hours or a day or multiple days with them, because when I leave, I see the joy and the spark of, oh my gosh, if we focus on the solutions, look what happens. You are only stuck if you choose to be stuck. It is a choice. It is a victim mentality, and it comes from focusing on the problems. You are not stuck. You never were. You never were. When you focus on the solutions, you get unstuck. You start moving forward. And maybe it's not a like, boom, you're up to the stratosphere in one day. Maybe it is a small incremental climb. But as long as you are moving in the right direction, that is all that matters. You're not stuck. Let go of that victim mentality. Stop focusing on the problem. Start looking at the solution. And I promise you, the answers will come. My mom did something that was unheard of back then, but she made it work. She let it work. She worked until it worked. My mom and dad showed me great lessons. And because I know not everybody was raised that way, I'm going to share them with you. Because To whom much is given, much is required. I believe that with everything in me. If you are given something and you're holding it tight, holding it under a rock, you don't want to share it because what if they steal my idea? You're not getting the blessings in life that you could be getting. Get out there and share it. It's why I'm sharing it with you. My mom and dad weren't perfect. They made mistakes. They were human, but they were fabulous humans who taught great lessons, and I will continue to share them with you. I was recently given a journal about this is why I love you, mom. 30 days of journal prompts. Well, my mom is gone. She's been gone for 4 years. I can hardly believe she's been gone that long. But I decided to fill the journal prompts in anyway. And as I started writing, more and more and more lessons that she taught me came up. I want to get one that's I love you, dad, too. I want to go through those 30 days because when you give your mind time to think, more and more and more comes up. And then I will come in to Coffee and Tea with CarrieVee and share those lessons because there are so many that my mom and dad taught me. And I don't want to keep them hidden. They were great lessons. Why would I want to hide them? Why would I want to shore them up only for myself? I want to help all of you. It's what we do. It's why we're here together on this podcast. So your journal prompt today is, what problem am I facing? What problem am I facing? Sorry, there's still a little bit of learning how to speak along with the braces going on. I've had them since January, but every single month I go in and they reshape them again, and I have to learn to talk all over again. And sometimes I say things and I'm like, what did I just say? So if I stumble over my words, that's why. Your journal prompt today. What problem am I facing? Acknowledge it. And what is one solution? What is one step I can take toward the solution today? Start brainstorming those solutions. I love you with everything in me. I want the best for you in every way. So until next time, keep smiling, keep writing, keep journaling, and keep going.